Welcome to Breakpoint, the ServiceNow Developer Podcast.
Hello, admins, builders, developers, and curious individuals that I would say with the utmost love and respect. Welcome to, or welcome back to the Breakpoint Podcast, the ServiceNow Developer Podcast, here to give you all the latest tools, tips, and tradecraft to accelerate your developer career. My name is Laura McManaman. I am one of the senior developer advocates, but amongst one of three on today's episode. So Earl and Laszlo, welcome back to Breakpoint. How are y'all doing today?
Yay. Thanks, Lauren, for having us.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you here. These are always some of the most fun episodes for us to record, and we have a really awesome topic. So if you are listening to this episode on the day of its release, we are about 1 week ahead of a really awesome program called Hacktoberfest. So before we kind of dive into the specifics of how you can participate and what the value is from doing so, let's just level set, gentlemen. What is Hacktoberfest?
It's always a fun question to get because we get it every year. Everybody feels like they are hearing about Hacktoberfest for the first time. And that's the exciting part because it is a growing program. It started off as a very small thing. And now if you're talking about the actual program, it's thousands of participants every year now. If you're talking about ServiceNow's participation in it, we're growing almost double every year in our participation. But Hacktoberfest is an event hosted by a company called DigitalOcean. And it is an event that they do every October just to celebrate open source collaboration. And when we talk about open source collaboration, that means it kind of focuses on coding open source collaboration. So specifically on Git repositories. For most people, that's GitHub. For some people, it might be other Git repositories, but for the most part, it's in GitHub. And it's just a time of the month where it says, hey, if you want to help build something with other developers across the world, here are the available projects, and anybody can host a project for Hacktoberfest. And they say, hey, jump into this project, see what you can work on. We have some listed tasks. We have a list of issues, maybe bugs, maybe feature requests. And if you know how to code for this project, or if you have something you can contribute, now is the time, because we want people to get in this mindset of, for the month of October, we're practicing this open source collaboration and we're celebrating open source collaboration. And DigitalOcean had in the past a bunch of different prizes to give away for it, and that's what was one of the most enticing parts of it, was the shirt. I'm wearing one of the shirts I earned in the previous year. It's the swag. Now it's mostly digital swag from them, but that's the DigitalOcean Hacktoberfest thing that we participate in from ServiceNow.
Now, obviously, open source is something that's the main goal of the promotion of this overall endeavor, right? And so, what truly is the value of creating open source projects as opposed to ones that are all kind of cloistered away?
I guess it's quite a controversial thing to talk about an open source event in the context of ServiceNow, a proprietary platform. But generally, if somebody participates in Hacktoberfest, that means they can participate any of these open source projects. So depending on your skills, you can just jump on board with any of them through hacktoberfest.com. In our specific case, how can we make something open source in the case of ServiceNow, right? So we started off with essentially sharing reusable building blocks from the platform. Let those be code snippets, integrations, or contributions to shared applications that basically everybody loads onto their PDI. They tweak a little bit and they push back their changes. It gets reviewed and then it becomes part of the application, and everybody else can sync that down. So we definitely do these many times playful, many times with utility value applications that everybody can contribute to and see immediately the result. I mean, we've done some pretty visible things with SlackerBot, for example, that comes to mind, which if listeners doesn't know, we've got a pretty cool Slack community. We've got a bot running on Slack, and all those commands and actions are basically a ServiceNow app. A ServiceNow instance is driving all of that, and everybody was able to contribute or is able to contribute, because these are all year round repositories. And you can, if you have an idea or something is broken, because oftentimes things are broken, you can jump in and help fixing it. You can offer your time and expertise to contribute, and everybody immediately benefits from that.
So kind of in summary then, if you're going back to my initial question of like, what's important about open source? Why do it at all? I can see a couple of reasons from there. Obviously, it's a nice collaborative opportunity. A lot of ServiceNow developers work in a bubble. Sometimes it's just them. And oftentimes they're kind of locked into the projects, obviously relevant for their job. But this opens up to a lot more, like you said, very fun use cases that they can collaborate with peers worldwide. Very fun. Checkbox there. Another one, too, is the opportunity to learn things that they wouldn't really necessarily learn without sometimes following in the steps of others. I think that's the other really cool thing about open source, is that you can learn from the entire history of the application, see how it's grown and changed over time, and utilize the experience of peers that have mastery in areas that you might not. So very cool aspect there. Now, ServiceNow's involvement with Hacktoberfest has kind of like a storied career at this point. Earl, I think you've been on board for a good majority of it. So how has ServiceNow itself gotten involved in this project?
Yeah, it's a good follow-up to what you were even saying too, in that sense of everyone's very used to working on apps in their own environment or within their own team. And so one of the reasons why ServiceNow got involved in this event called Hacktoberfest, again, we don't run Hacktoberfest, we just participate in it.
Yeah.
The reason why we got into it is because we understood two things. One, let's get people into the idea that we can collaborate on these projects remotely. We don't necessarily have to be on the same team to do these things. And then the second part of what our involvement entails is, wow, a lot of ServiceNow people that learn development within just the ServiceNow ecosystem do not know how to utilize source control. Yeah. And this was also a reason why we got into it was, hey, if people don't know source control, but that is like the way of doing app development outside of the ecosystem, let's get everybody to start learning how to do that. And so ServiceNow got involved. I don't know how many years ago, like 8-9 years ago at this point.
Yeah, it's something pretty far.
Yeah, and it started off with our predecessors before us, before the developer advocates that came before all of us on this podcast. But it was that intention. And so what they did was they started off very small, and they said, here's our few projects that we are opening up to people. And it was like what Laszlo said, stuff like, let's build an integration together. Let's build this fake app together. I think like a vehicle request was one of the earlier ones, a facilities or vehicle request app. Let's build it together and let's collaborate. And it was a very small, not just projects scope, but also the participation was pretty small. And then it just kept growing every year ever since then, until it came to this one point where I basically said, like, hey, if we really want to keep doing this project, we really need to make it easier for people to participate. And so we started doing repositories and projects that were very much not just low-hanging fruit, but I'll say it's low-hanging fruit, because we wanted people to just touch source control for the first time, and we made it really easy for people to like get started in source control. And that's when the program exploded. And that was, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, where it went from whatever population was doing the ServiceNow side of Hacktoberfest, it like quadrupled in that year, and it has been doubling ever since. It's really fun to see the growth of it. But ServiceNow's involvement on the administrative side, we were relying on DigitalOcean for the longest time for all their prizes, and then they took the shirt away. We were like, no,
not the shirt,
no,
not the swag.
And then so we provided the shirt the first year, I think the 10th year that Hacktoberfest was running. And so we were like, okay, we'll do a shirt. And we sent CreatorCon shirts to everybody. And then we realized, wow, sending out shirts to everybody is really hard. So we're not doing that either. So we have a slew of different things, and we'll get into like, what do you get out of it and stuff like that throughout the rest of this podcast. But there's a lot to get out of this, even without a shirt.
Well, tell me. So, aside from the shirt, obviously there's going to be some consequences. This is one of those growing pains, right? The program starts getting so much legs under it. Yeah, obviously, you can't sustain sending out hundreds and hundreds of shirts each year. Sorry, guys. But what other, aside from the learning opportunities and from, a couple of things here and there, maybe surprises for Hacktoberfest participants, what can people expect from participating?
Personally, what I would highlight is probably the entire community angle of it all.
Yeah.
Because it really is a forum for connecting and working on things together and helping each other, which is what our ServiceNow community is about anyway. But it feels like it's just another level because it's somehow more timely, maybe a little bit more intimate, and it really gives you that possibility of connecting often with people one to one, helping them with something. Oh, I already know how to submit a correct pull request, and these trivial questions come up so many times every year. And if you can just help people, they are actually going to remember. And
Yes.
what happened to me is like someone walked up at a word forum last year and said, "Hey, thanks for helping me during Hacktoberfest and all that." It's like, oh, great! Like I had no idea, and they remember, and you know, they succeed. You literally help people succeed and achieve their 4 contributions or more to be able to complete Hacktoberfest. To me, like I said, it just gave an additional level of community intimacy in the game, if you like. And I really got to know a lot of people better, like even Earl probably, but so many other folks as well, just by accident, just because I was there, just because I wanted to try something out and see, hey, can I do this? Can I actually do 4 successful pull requests? And I just hung out for a month, and by the end of the month, I guess it was a different community.
Yeah, that was like 2 years ago, right? Where
2 or 3 years ago, not sure.
I
Yeah.
went into a channel on the Slack, the unofficial Slack community that Laszlo mentioned, and I said, "Hey, I need volunteers to help review pull requests for Hacktoberfest this year because I was previously doing it almost well. One year I was doing it alone, and then a few employee volunteers helped jumped in. But then 2 years ago, I said, I need help. We need help. A bunch of MVPs volunteered, a bunch of employees volunteered, and then Laszlo volunteered. Laszlo was the only person that was not an MVP or an employee that was on our reviewing volunteer team. And then I'm not saying because of Hacktoberfest, but the next year he was an MVP, and now we're teammates.
Yeah.
So it's great kind of community building, and that's the community angle that Laszlo was talking about, like the bots and stuff like that. It's such a fun community thing because we're all building such a silly thing together to like put all the different scripts and see what we can do with ServiceNow and with this little random bot that's sitting on an unofficial Slack. Like there's just fun stuff that we get to do as we build together. And another thing that like why would anybody would want to get into Hacktoberfest? Laszlo mentioned it, but like a lot of what I know about source control was learned during Hacktoberfest stuff.
Of course.
Like I'm a good pull request reviewer now. I understand all the different mechanics of it. Because of these source control projects, I prefer 100% coding inside of a VS Code interface. Even ServiceNow projects, like I code via the XML now within ServiceNow projects because I just prefer that environment so much more. So there's so much to learn from a development and technical standpoint that I think more people would love to see, especially as you learn more skills inside of your ServiceNow career.
Absolutely. Now, kind of, you keep mentioning a bunch of linguistics associated with source control. You're talking about repos and pull and push request, things like that. So let's also, before we kind of dive into how people can participate, is there anything you suggest they do beforehand? So if they've never used source control a day in their life, is there any resource or video or any suggestions you would make to a first-time participant with no Zippo source control experience?
Yeah, there is a lot, but that's the whole point of what we are trying to solve for ServiceNow's participation in Hacktoberfest. And so we're not just asking you like, hey, figure out all of this stuff, what this means, and build something with it and give it to us. No, like we are really adamant about our good documentation. If you don't know what to do, this is what you're going to do to install something. If you don't know what to do, this is what you need to do to submit, and what we explain all of the terms along the way. We have blogs, README files, videos that we've done in the past, and we're doing office hours again. We did in previous years, and we're bringing that back. Where I think we have at least one planned per week of October, and across all the time zones, because we're scattered around the world, so we can cover all the different regions, which is exciting for us. But yeah, if you don't know anything about any of this, this is the perfect time to try, because we are there along the way with not just documentation online in Word and video format, but we try to be as accessible as possible via any of the online mechanisms to chat with each other in Git, and or on the unofficial Slack, or even just messaging us. We are very much, hey, if this is open source month, we need to be open to the questions, and we want to be available, because we want people to participate, and we want people to feel like they're not being left out, kind of thing.
I just want to underline that there's no way around learning the basics of repositories, pull controls, how to submit, how to fork, all of these things. But I think over the years, we especially Earl, tried to make it really easy with step-by-step guidance, now also with screenshots, videos, whatsoever. And then, yeah, there's the community. If you still got questions, it's not just us, not just the reviewers. There's a community there in Slack or on the blog itself where people are willing to jump in and help out. What I would also add on top, and also from previous personal experience, and seasoned Hacktoberfest participants would probably know that you can prepare by preparing your future submissions. To give you a specific example, I many times had customer projects where I created a piece of code. I thought it's really cool, I want to share with the community, but maybe it wasn't documented well enough. Now, for that, we got very specific guidelines, as you mentioned, what we expect. Give us an example of how to use that code, etc., etc. So you may have that piece of code stored somewhere, like I did, on your personal repository even. Go back to it, look at it, add those missing pieces, make it look a little bit nicer so it's ready for prime time in October.
Well, gentlemen, we've covered essentially why people should be participating and all the kind of the fun experiences that they can look forward to. So now let's talk about exactly what they will be working on. I think that's what's so exciting about this, is that they're not participating, or they could participate in Hacktoberfest on their own, but by doing so with the ServiceNow community, they have the opportunity to collaborate on some very fun projects. So I would love to hear you talk about what potential projects people could expect to be collaborating on in 2025.
Yeah, so there was a problem with previous years of our Hacktoberfest participation where the list of projects you can participate in kind of grew too much, and there's probably a lot of things that didn't have to be in the scope of what we were trying to do during Hacktoberfest. Even though some of those projects were very beloved, some of it was just kind of not really demonstrating our hope for what the community will get out of participating out of this. And so this year, something that we're doing a little bit differently to see how it goes is that we're limiting the scope of what we're working on pretty dramatically. So in the past, we may have had 8 or more potential projects that you could participate in, but this year we are focusing on 3. And what we're trying to do with these 3 projects is say, hey, wherever you are in this journey of learning source control and open source collaboration, figure out where you are in this and pick your project accordingly, and hopefully challenge yourself to step up to the next higher project if you participated in one in the previous year. So that level of really low-hanging fruit that we talked about, that's still there. But if you did that last year, we're going to challenge you to do the next level up. And if you did that last year, we're going to ask you to do the third project, our keystone project of this year. And so, yeah, we picked 3, and I'll have Laszlo talk about some of them.
I already hinted at code snippets. That's what we call one of our repos. That's what we consider to be the lowest entry. Exactly because of what I said. You don't even need technically a ServiceNow instance to participate in that one. All you need is a piece of working code and following the guidelines set in our contributing file. And that's pretty much it. If there's no similar code and it looks great, you follow the guidelines, it's done, it's accepted. And to be honest, it's one of our most popular repositories as well. One of my personal favorites too, but just purely because of history. That's also where probably I got started because of the reasons I mentioned. So you guys can do that too. I know you're out there writing these scripts, so just make sure you try to share that in the right form with all of us. And if you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, then we're introducing something new this year in the form of an ideation app for our Hack for Good initiative. We're still working out the details of how to exactly participate with that, but we are basically looking at a ServiceNow application. So you're going to need your PDI, spin up your instance, fork the repository. That's important so that you can download this app from a remote source from your own GitHub repository, and then contribute via this application. And we've got a third tier level contribution possibility as well this year. Earl, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So the third project, our keystone project, our capstone project for this year, is a brand new repository that we're going to be calling the Action Pack. And we're going to hope that it becomes action packed with flow actions that we all contribute by the end of the year. So kind of the involvement of, hey, we have a code snippets repository. What would be the next step? Oh, actually putting it inside a ServiceNow utility pack of some sort. And so we're going to be standing up a GitHub repository application that you can import into your ServiceNow instance that after everyone contributes will have many flow action utilities that are utilizing different bits of code, all those kind of things. You're like, oh, I wish there was an action for this, or oh, why couldn't it change this value to this value for me inside of a flow? Now I have to write my own script. Well, no, maybe we can have all of these utilities already for you after we contribute to this action pack and have this nice little library of code snippets that work inside of Flow Designer. So that's what Action Pack is supposed to be.
Yeah, just a reminder to those out there, if you're not a frequent user of Flow Designer, basically actions are any of those little drag and drop rectangles that are meant to replicate automation on ServiceNow. So anything that is intermixed with the flow logic are essentially things that you can build either inside the ServiceNow platform that are doing things outside the ServiceNow platform. They're very, very versatile. So that's a very exciting kind of, like you said, keystone project version of Hacktoberfest.
We've had a hard time accepting those previously because there were already people wanting to share, hey, I've created a cool flow action. Where does it go in the code snippets hierarchy? And we were like, well, not quite sure, So it just makes sense to have its own repository now. And now the flow actions are hot again, or still not sure how to say it. There's more and more things you can do with them. So I hope it gains popularity as well.
Now, I've got a couple of questions on the execution of this project, Obviously, Hacktoberfest runs the entire month of, spoiler alert, October. If someone does not sign up on the first day, does that mean they cannot contribute? Does that mean that they're out of the game?
Yep, you're done. Sorry. No, I'm just kidding.
Stop. That's a leading question for a reason.
It's it. No. Hacktoberfest starts at the first time any time zone crosses over to October, and it ends the moment any time zone moves away from October. So that entire month is your time to participate. Back in the day, it used to be a rush to get done as fast as possible because the shirts were limited. And so everyone was always racing.
Already.
yeah, there was like a race to make sure you got the shirt and the shirt size that you wanted. But because it's mostly digital rewards for the DigitalOcean side, it has turned into like, no, participate when you have time, participate at your leisure. If you Now that you have all of October to think about it, hey, if you run into a problem, that's okay, because you can come to the community to ask about it, figure it out. You have time to reflect on those things. Hey, your pull request might have got rejected. Why did it get rejected? Now you have time to figure that out. But missing the October 1st start, that's okay. Come in anytime you want, as long as you finish participating by the end of October. Whenever that last UTC time zone crosses over, that's when the event eventually ends. But you can start whenever you want.
And what dictates the completion, quote unquote? You said you had mentioned like when they're done. So what dictates the completion of Hacktoberfest?
Yeah, basically, as Earl mentioned, during the month of October, make sure you sign up on the official site, hacktoberfest.com, for the ServiceNow specific event. Make sure you comment on our blog how you contributed to take part, and get some gifts from us as well. What constitutes completion? Very good question. Well, don't get banned. I'm just kidding, but
that is a thing, actually.
It's a thing for good
Banned?
reason. Well, yeah. If somebody submits spam,
Okay, yeah,
and it's tagged 2 times as spam, only 2 times, you're done. So don't do that. We always get folks, especially in the age of AI, and maybe there'll be even more. So don't do that. But what you should do is essentially have at least 4 accepted pull requests. That's what it takes. And if you submit, for example, in the 11th hour, it's fine, even if our reviewers don't get to it on time. Many people are worried they're not going to make completion. Yes, you will, because what matters is when you submitted that pull request. So you just got to make sure you submit 4 pull requests during October. So don't do it before, don't do it after. It has to be in October.
And some people, we haven't explained the terminology yet, but 4 pull requests basically means 4 contributions. And our team will review it and say, hey, that's a good contribution. And as long as 4 of those are accepted, and you can submit way more than 4, like a lot of us do. As long as you submit 4 contributions, you get all of the digital rewards from DigitalOcean, and then you will get additional rewards from us, which I guess I can talk about that now.
Yeah, go for it. Heck yeah. We buried the lead long enough.
So in lieu of DigitalOcean no longer providing the prizes, the physical prizes, we stepped up and said, hey, okay, what kind of prizes can we contribute to anybody that fully participates? So for us, as long as you're completing Hacktoberfest and sharing on the blog post that we'll have, and you'll see the instructions that this is a requirement. As long as you do those participation requirements, we plan to grant community badges to everybody, similar to last year. And then similar to last year, our hope is to send out ServiceNow swag to everybody that completes it. Pending approval for us to get those things out. But that's our intention. So we are still sending stuff out, and it takes a little bit of time for it to ship for different people, but it's always fun to see the resurgence of posts on LinkedIn and stuff a month later saying, hey, I got my Hacktoberfest swag. And so our hope is to provide something physical as a prize for participating in this, because it is in addition to your normal amount of work, and we want to reward that.
Yeah. Of course.
Don't forget the bragging rights. It's such a great feeling when you complete it.
Yes.
Yeah. My the cool thing about the DigitalOcean digital rewards is they are participants in HoloPin. And so it's like digital digital badges that work across industry for any company that's participating in HoloPin. And so, for example, if you look up my GitHub, my homepage is my HoloPin board and it has all of the badges of like different digital like achievements that I've had across the industry, including Hacktoberfest and some dev.to stuff. So it's like it's a bragging board basically, like, oh, look at all the things I've done.
It's a resume too. It showcases all the stuff you've done. Now, one thing I have to go back to before we move too far away from it is you mentioned, people getting banned for submitting spam pull requests. I mean, that's obvious. Especially like you said with the the influx of AI, how that could possibly be a problem. But I also wanted to highlight, are there any other common mistakes you see beginners or newbies to Hacktoberfest making, and are there ways to avoid them?
So many, Lauren.
So many.
So many. And we try our best every year to like lead all of those, but it's
shepherd them the right direction.
Every time. And honestly, like a lot of 99% of these mistakes are if you had just followed our contributing guidelines or the README files, which is like, that's why we always start with read the documentation, because that has everything that you possibly could need. And that's the whole point of open source collaboration. I mean, think about it as a developer at home. The moment you try to use a third party like API or a documentation from another group and it's poor documentation, you want to throw those developers off like a cliff, because how am I supposed to do my work if you didn't write any of your documentation that will help me? It's the same thing like that. We know that's the problem. And so we put everything in the documentation so that everyone has everything they potentially would need to do to make good submissions. And we are very clear about that. And we have templates for the pull requests too. Like, hey, if you didn't follow those things, we have a set number of templates that we as reviewers use to properly educate, like, hey, you missed this part. Just if you redo it with this, then it'll be great. And we try to be as much as it's our ire of how much like these things are missed. We try our best to be educated, be good about educating the person if they do make mistakes. It's open source. We're happy that you're participating. That's first and foremost.
Yeah. I mean, some common mistakes, just to highlight a couple, maybe, is not including a README file to go with your code, or in the case of code snippets, just putting your code into the wrong folder, which many times our reviewers just connect on our users' behalf, but it can't be expected. But as Earl said, everything is there in our contributing guidelines. So if you're unsure, just check that. I still check those multiple times a year, just to double check that that I have the right ideas in mind. And we didn't talk about forks. A fork is essentially when you copy a repository from our developer program account, and that's your own version. So you might just want to make sure that every once in a while you synchronize that with the source, and the source being us in this case. That's important because there can be changes that are not visible to you, and you may be creating duplicate efforts or just unnecessary work for yourself. Yeah, exactly. So do that, folks. That's also a common mistake, that people just fork a repository and never sync again.
Awesome.
But to answer your question of like the segue from spam and stuff like that, the most common spam that we receive are the people that roll into the Hacktoberfest thinking like, oh, I'm just going to get credit really fast, and they submit a pull request saying, hey, I contributed, and all it is they added a period to the end of a sentence on a list.
You gotta be kidding me. People don't do that.
It happens every year. It's like the most common. It's really obvious that you're just
no kidding.
And so we, as reviewers, have the power on behalf of DigitalOcean, exactly, to drop the axe on them and mark their contribution as spam. And DigitalOcean knows that this is a problem. So if just 2 of your submissions is labeled as spam, no matter what repository or what level, then your entire account is banned from Hacktoberfest in perpetuity.
It's pretty strict.
Oh. 2 strikes and you're out, period. Okay. I mean, honestly, though, for something as nice as this, it's something it's designed to help educate and have fun and bring a sense of community to development. I do understand why they're dropping the hammer a little hard on that, because you do want to weed out the people that are a little bit, we're just wasting your time if they're just submitting a period, especially when, like you said, to participate, it's not a Herculean effort. It's not. It's, if anything, it's more of like a fun side project, and it could be correlated to things you're already doing, frankly, for your day-to-day job. So yeah, don't be goofy like that and don't just try to pull the wool over our eyes.
And that's the exception. Those are just the few,
Of course, yeah.
like bad actors inside of the participating. But on the flip side, we haven't talked about it yet, but last year we received more than 1,300, close to 1,400 contributions. So 1,400 pull requests submitted across what I have the stats in front of me, 888 forks of our repositories. 453 people participated in some way.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's a huge number up. Huge. Because I remember reading your blog post from like the first one that you had led, and it was like a quarter of that, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Wow, way to go. And I will also provide links to the previous blog entries. Earl has done a really nice job of kind of summarizing the entire month of work for the past previous hackathon. So I'll put Hacktoberfest. So I'll put that down below in the comments as well if you'd like to kind of see the progress of this project over time. Now, gentlemen, if people are sitting here, they've loved everything that you've said, they're really jazzed, they want to start participating, or maybe they're listening to this mid-October, they're going, oh my gosh, I don't want to miss my chance. What are the 3 steps they should take to get started?
I would say start with our blog post first, because that will have everything, but that will lead you to the official DigitalOcean site to register with your GitHub account. So you're already step number 2. Make sure you put your contributions in the comments of the blog post that I just mentioned. Maybe if I can add the bonus, if you're not already there in Slack, join the Hacktoberfest channel and just be part of an active community, helping us on a daily basis and helping each other on a daily basis.
Love that. So check out our blog posts, make sure that you have a GitHub account, sign up via DigitalOcean, and link any of your contributions in the parent blog. Am I missing anything?
That blog typically can be found at devlink.sn/Hacktoberfest.
Now, you had also mentioned to the Slack channel. So is that the best means of participants staying connected with one another throughout the month of October?
Yeah, I would say so, just because a lot of these projects were first started by people that were participating in these unofficial communities. Again, Hacktoberfest isn't necessarily a ServiceNow official activity. It's us participating with others in DigitalOcean's Hacktoberfest. And so it sprang from a bunch of unofficial Slack communities and stuff like that. And so that is where a lot of people hang out for it. It's where some of our integrations with the GitHub repositories are too, because like a project will send a summary of all of people's contributions to the channel every day. And so there's a lot of fun little automations there, but plus we all just kind of hang out there. But there's a bunch of different ways to stay connected. The blog posts will be one of them. LinkedIn, people will chat about it there too. Did I forget any other ways to stay connected?
Try and join one of the open office sessions. It's gonna be live streams. You can put your questions there and connect with folks and look at how our reviewers are evaluating some pull requests.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and that's on the youtube.com/ServiceNow Dev Program YouTube channel. They'll be streamed there. And I think the same name on Twitch will probably stream there too.
Earl, Laszlo, this has been such a fun conversation. I'm very jazzed to see the results of this year's Hacktoberfest initiative. Aside from this, is there anything you'd like to promote? Is there anything that you're wanting the community to know about? Keep in mind, it's coming out on September 24th. So obviously we're recording this a little bit in the future. So anything coming up on the horizon for either of you?
Well, by the time this episode airs, we'll be just starting off Hacktoberfest. But by the end of Hacktoberfest, the week right after, in the first week of November, is Community Week for ServiceNow. During that week of Community Week, we will participate during that with a retrospective episode about Hacktoberfest. So tune in for that too. And if you want to, we'll do a lot of fun stuff of talking about the results, highlighting really cool contributions, things that people built, and then talking about all of what we've learned throughout the way. And so if anything, tune into Community Week. All of it, there's a lot of things going on during Community Week, but we'll also do our retrospective there.
And catch us on one of the Word forums in October, November. Gonna be there in London, Munich, Paris, New York, maybe?
Yeah. So right after the heels of this coming out, we basically will have 2 October World Forums, London and New York being October 15th and then October 29th. Then the month of November, we've got 2 more. We have November 12th is Munich, November 20th is Paris. And then we're rounding out the entire World Forum season with December 3rd being Amsterdam and December 11th being Toronto. So if you haven't signed up, please do. These are wonderful events. We're trying more and more to make them more developer oriented. In the past, they've been a little businessy, but as we've integrated CreatorCon more into them, they are becoming more developer friendly, I would say. So they're free events too. So please stop by, come say hi to all of us, get your C3 card, and we hope to see you there. Awesome. Well, this has been a fantastic time. It's always so much fun talking with y'all, especially on Breakpoint. Thank you for spending your time here with me today to discuss this awesome month of Hacktoberfest. And also, thank you, wonderful listener, for joining us here today. Again, if you'd like to sign up for Hacktoberfest, everything will be linked down below in the description of the episode, whether you're watching it on YouTube or listening to this in one of the podcasting providers. This is one of the many ServiceNow produced podcasts led by me, Laura McManaman. The other ones are linked on our ServiceNow community site, and you can find much, much more there as well. So please be sure to register for community.servicenow.com. Thank you so much. Stay hungry, stay humble, and I will see y'all in the next episode. Bye.
Please let us know what you think about this podcast. You can leave feedback or ask questions in the ServiceNow community. For more great information on ServiceNow development, check out the ServiceNow developer portal at developer.servicenow.com. Thanks for listening.